What's up, Eagles Nation, and welcome to Week 6 of the NFL season. Of course, so far it's been I'd say a season to forget for the Eagles at 1-3-1 on the season to this point. There's been moments where they've looked good. There's been too many moments, though, when they haven't, but still, many weeks to go, and they are in a very poor division. Dallas loses their starting quarterback a week ago to injuries, out for the season. Of course, Dak Prescott. And get well soon, Dak. The one thing is, and it's a shame, is that Dallas would not, take care of him financially. He kind of bet on himself. He took the franchise tag yet again this season, and unfortunately, the injury happens. And Dallas is, as an Eagles fan, the one thing I have seen over the years is just how inept that franchise is in Dallas. I know the Eagles have had their share of issues in the front office and whatnot with the decision making process, but Dallas they just keep getting in their own way. And as long as they have the powers that be there, this division is going to be a winnable division. The Washington football team and the Giants are still years away from really becoming something. So it's really between the Eagles and Dallas every year for this season, from last season, and for the foreseeable future. As long as that's the case. Now I know either team has a great record to this point, and it's really like what team can lose the worst way. But the problem with Dallas is and it's going to be the starting quarterback. It's going to be, are they going to either pay Dak or get another quarterback in there? I don't think Andy Dalton's the future for them. I think he's the right now due to injury, and I don't see him as being the future starting quarterback for Dallas for years to come. So it's either going to be Dak or it's going to be someone else. And as much as I you know like to throw jabs at Dallas and Dak for the accuracies and only two playoff wins, whatever, this and that, I can see he's a franchise quarterback. The guy is a heck of an athlete, and he was having his best start of a season that he's had, and he had to, because that defense is piss poor. Can't stop anybody, including the Giants last week. Um, and he's throwing for 500 whatever yards and touchdown after touchdown, and you couldn't blame him for the losses this year. Um, for them not to take care of him, I just think it's an indictment on that franchise. And again, sitting as an outsider looking in, it's an issue, and I'm glad it's not my issue for the Eagles, but it's an issue. And it's a shame. The man deserved money. He didn't get it. And now he's in a real issue. Having to have that season ending surgery and coming back, is he going to be the same kind of quarterback that he was prior to the injury? And, time will tell. Um, but I do hope he recovers and comes back good, because the one thing I will say, even as an Eagles fan, as someone who despises Dallas, Dak has been a stand up person. He's a good person. He's one of the good people in the world. He's had to overcome a lot, to be where he is, and it's a shame. It's a shame. Even as an Eagles fan, I don't wish injury on anybody, on a division rival, whatever. But I do see a guy who's out there giving everything he could to a franchise that didn't really take care of him. Kind of did him dirty. And I think this is a lot about his character. And I do hope, like I said, I hope he comes back healthy. And whether he plays for Dallas for the foreseeable future or another franchise, won't be the Eagles, but for another franchise in the foreseeable future, I hope he comes back and can be the quarterback, that he was before the injury. And as an Eagles fan, listen, I will say this: it sucks being in a division that's horrible. I mean, look, you want competition, right? Not only is competition good for fans, but it's also good for an organization, because now you kind of have to, it puts a little more pressure on your organization to to make those right moves. Maybe to get rid of a coach earlier who's not succeeding in one side of the ball or whatnot, or other personnel, right? Maybe the drafts are better. Maybe the player movement is better as far as free agency, as far as trades. I don't know. Maybe Howie feels that he can just do what he does because the division's horrible. And all they really have to do is win 8 games or 9 games a year to win this division and make the playoffs. I do think there's something to be said about some of those other divisions where you see a lot of talent and you see teams that are playing good and teams that are winning. It puts pressure on those other teams in that division to play well because it's a tough division to win. And I think, like I said, I remember the years, many years ago it might be, where the NFC East had some of the best teams in the league. And it was competition and competition. The Eagles battling it out with the Giants and with Washington and with Dallas certainly over the years. And that's kind of gone away over the past many years, to be honest. It's really only one or two teams in the division that make the playoffs and that have some sort of success. It's really been kind of a comedy of errors in many ways for a lot of the teams in this division. And as a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles and as a longtime fan of this franchise, and as a longtime fan of it being in a city, an NFC East city, it's painful. It's painful to see some of these. We joke and laugh about it, but at the same time, it is painful to watch these teams that used to be proud franchises, and hold your head high franchises doing everything right, winning Super Bowls and having success. And it's just a laughing stock right now. And again, as a fan, do I enjoy being the Giants twice a year? Sure. I mean, I know Washington got us in week 1, but beating them all those times in a row, yeah, I mean, Dallas, we always seem to split. But yeah, sure, it's nice. But at the same time, yeah, man, I want that competitive, fire. I want a better division than just a joke that it is right now. I want these teams to be better because I think that makes the franchise better. I think that makes the organization better. You have a little more to fight for. And sure, you build a team not just to win a division title, but they make your hay in the playoffs. And the Eagles have done that, in recent years. But it's still, I think having that competitive balance in the division, I just think it makes the organization better. I think it makes the team better. I think it makes you a little more hungry. And it makes each game just matter that much more. I'm not saying you ever look at an opponent and say, that's an easy win, whatever, we'll just walk over them, because you can't do that. And you certainly can't do that in this league when, week to week, any team seems to beat, whoever. But at the same time, I do think, like, I look at some of those other divisions, I look at some of those other teams and some of the decisions that those teams make, and it's to better their franchises because they know they're in battles in those divisions. You look at how things are shaping up in the AFC West with those teams, and now the AFC North has always had battles, right? Now Cleveland's playing better. Cincinnati's still a work in progress, but the Steelers, the Ravens, all those years, and now Cleveland's coming up a bit. So I think it makes those teams that much better, and I don't know. Maybe it's just saying something to say it, but again, I want the best for this franchise. I want the best for the Eagles. I want them to be better. I want Howie Roseman to be better. And I know it's not just snapping the fingers and it's going to happen, but one of the biggest problems they've had in recent years, and going back really more than that, has been drafting. Missing on draft picks. I mean, you draft Jalen Hurts instead of an impactful linebacker. I mean, Queen was out there. Maybe they could have gotten him. Other players that could have been difference makers. Instead, you bring in a quarterback to be kind of a gimmick guy this season. A la what Mike Vick was his first season with the Eagles, right? Where he would come in for Donovan McNabb for a play and, kind of have this kind of, RPO type play that never seemed to work. But he would come in there every now and then, and it's kind of the same with Jalen Hurts. And the future is what it is, and we'll see down the road. I just think it was a waste of a pick. I really do. And you could have had another player in a position of need at that position, an impactful player, albeit they had to draft that guy. But linebacker, safety, even a corner, Offensive linemen. But it's like they kind of had this mentality that, oh, we're just going to get speed, 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 and oh yeah, we're going to draft another quarterback, and it's like, well, wait a minute, we have other needs, and see, that's where I said last week where I think Jim Schwartz has been just way too much of a harmful influence on this team because a lot of these decisions that are made defensively, I just think he has too much of a hand in it. And I understand he's the defensive coordinator, but a lot of the moves that they seem to make or not make with the defense is in large part because of Jim Schwartz and the fact that they haven't really drafted well defensively, the fact that they don't put any emphasis on linebackers and on the secondary, besides going after Darius Slay, this offseason. And for the first time in forever, they actually put some money at the cornerback position. And I know they won a Super Bowl some years ago, and you can say, well, the corners might not have been that great then, and whatever. But at the same point, it was just a magical run, and it's like they overcame the problems they had defensively in that Super Bowl, like I said before, to win that game in a shootout. Now, fast forward to today. Well, like I said before, it's week 6. We're playing the Baltimore Ravens, a very tough opponent. Baltimore coming off a win, the Eagles coming off a tough loss in a shootout against Pittsburgh. All indications is that this could be a loss, right? They are finally letting some fans into the link, so that's great. And I know the Eagle fans that will be there in full throat as they always are, although there will be much less than a normal situation would be where it'd be a full house. I know they're going to be there making noise. All indications, though, is it's going to be a loss, right? Everyone's waving this game off. Oh, the Eagles are just going to lose. How can you beat Baltimore? The Eagles second, the Eagles linebacking situation, the secondary, what's the offense going to do against that ferocious defense? And honestly, and I know the Steelers had a little extra time off, and I think they were a bit rusty last weekend, defensively for sure. But I like the way the Eagles move the ball in that defense. And I said before the game is that Pittsburgh has a ferocious front defensive line. They get a lot of turnovers. They cause a lot of havoc. And honestly, for the most part, they didn't. The Eagles' offensive line did a pretty good job a week ago at keeping the pocket clean for Carson. And I think as the game went on, when Carson found his rhythm, he looked really good. He looked sharp. Converting on third downs, making plays, touchdowns, 2-point conversions. He was looking like the Carson that we were hoping for. Maybe Doug should have gone for it on 4th and 5 instead of kicking the long field goal there. Obviously, hindsight being what it was, I was thinking during the game, they should just go for it because the field goal really doesn't do much good. Even if Elliott would have made it, and he is capable of making those long field goals, but even if he made it, it's a 1-point game. And you're giving that Steelers offense the ball back with over 2 minutes with all timeouts and a 2-minute warning, and then you're hoping this Eagles defense can get a stop. And they really, for the most part, weren't being able to do it during that game. But it is what it is. Again, that's last week. We put it in the rear view now. It's this week. It's week 6. It's Baltimore. But my point being is that the Eagles were able to move the ball against a pretty good defense last week. And even against the 49ers, and I know the 49ers have a lot of injuries, and they're not playing to their standard, from a year ago, certainly. But the Eagles are able to move the ball pretty good on them, too. And that's 2 pretty good defenses week after, but 2 road games, too, back-to-back weeks, where I think the Eagles' offense looked pretty good for the most part. Were there mistakes made? Yeah. Interceptions, again, by Carson. Mistakes, here and there. But for the most part, I think that they look pretty good, and they're doing it with these young, inexperienced, receivers like a Ward, like a Fulgham. It's been the renaissance over the last few weeks, right? Travis Fulgham has been terrific in these last couple weeks, getting the go-ahead score a couple weeks ago in San Francisco. And what do you have, like 10 catches for over 100 yards and a score last week against Pittsburgh, and a good secondary in Pittsburgh, a good defense, and able to really light them up. I mean, like I said last week, my God, a receiver on the Eagles actually goes up and gets the ball. After watching the the receivers over the past few years kind of just not get the ball. Well, they go up, but they don't come down with the ball like Aguilar. I know my buddy Pistol, the Raiders fan, was like, "Oh, Aguilar's doing great." I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry, you'll see eventually." And hey, look, if Nelson found a home in Vegas and is playing well, good for him. Nelson wasn't a bad guy. I don't think he was a bad person or someone that was a hateable type of person. The problem with Nelson over the past few years, he just couldn't come down with the football. And I don't know what it was. For whatever reason, the year they won the Super Bowl, he was good. And maybe that Nelson is now playing for the Raiders. But for the past few years after the Super Bowl, he has been one of the more mediocre receivers in the league. And I mean dropping catchable passes. Now, I know there were some that, there was defenders, and it would have been a tough catch for any receiver. But a lot of those drops were just easy catches, catches we saw him make during the year when they won the Super Bowl. In fact, he led the team in yards in the Super Bowl during Super Bowl 52. But obviously, look, if he refound himself with the Raiders, more power to him. I still think it was a good move to move on from him. And you know what? Moving on from him got you Fulgham. So to me, it's still a win. The one constant, though, that's been a bad constant has been the poor play for Zach Ertz. And here's a guy that's dealing with a contract situation, right? Wants to be here, I'm sure, wants to get paid like a top-tier tight end. And maybe that's really kind of affected him this season, but he is nowhere near playing like a top-tier tight end. I mean, I see some of these other tight ends in the league making plays week after week. And Zach Ertz, who used to be one of those guys making plays week after week, the reliable, pass-catching tight end, just isn't doing it. I mean, kind of giving up on some routes, too. I'm seeing some stuff from him that, really wasn't his MO for many years. And you're starting to see it this year. And look, if he's going to pout, look, you don't do it on the field. You don't take your financial situation or whatever the situation is, contract situation, I should say, you don't bring that on the field of play. And look, I'm not a player by any stretch of the imagination, so I haven't been in that kind of situation. But these guys, look, you get the paycheck for what you do week to week on the field, how you produce. And to this point this season, Zach Ertz just has not produced. Now, is there time enough to turn around? Sure is. They'll get Dallas Goedert back, and hopefully soon. I think they're starting to get some of their veteran receivers. Now, we can split hairs about, well, maybe the veteran receivers should just stay on the sidelines, let the young kids play. And there is something to that. But anytime you can add some more weapons to an offense, I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't. Now, obviously, if D-Jax and Alshon comes back and they're just, a hindrance to the offense, then, yeah, we can revisit it. But I think getting those guys back, I think, would be an added addition. I hope it doesn't take a lot of snaps away from Fulgham because I like the way he's playing. He's showing like he's a top-tier receiver in the league, and it's amazing. So that he kind of bounced around from team to team. But, so, you have stories like that, right? And that's one of the great things about this league and about this sport is there's a lot of instances where guys just, didn't last with a team, but they never stopped fighting for it. They never stopped giving up on the dream, on the hope, and they know that they have more to give. They just need that chance. They need that opportunity, and then it's what you do with that opportunity. And I think Fulgham's done it as good as anyone I've seen in recent years. Now, it's a small sample size. It's only been a couple games. We'll see this week against Baltimore. Obviously, there's a lot of film on him now, and maybe the Ravens defend him a little different than, say, Pittsburgh did a week ago. So we'll see. And he still kind of has to, still earn, that spot and earn that continued success, in the league, even when he's being defended a little differently, maybe a little harder by some of these other secondaries as the season goes on. But I like what I've seen so far, and how can you not, right? He's looked really good so far. But again, getting more weapons in on this offense, whether it's Djax, whether it's Alshon, Dallas Goddard, is a welcome thing. And more, players to throw the ball to and to make plays, I think it's a good thing. And listen, this offense got to do it. Because defensively, there's some issues with this team. Defensive line, they're good. We know they're stout there. But the linebacker situation, the secondary, really, I know a big play Slay still out there. He had a tough week a week ago, but for the most part, he's played good. Been that lockdown corner. But the linebacker situation, as we know, has been awful. The safety situation hasn't been good either. And then the secondary outside of Darius, and even last week, Darius just hasn't been good enough. It just hasn't. When you're not getting the pressure on the opposing quarterback, they're still able to make throws. We saw last week, Big Ben after the first couple series, when the pressure wasn't there on him, when it wasn't getting to him, he was making throw after throw after throw after throw. Receivers were open all day against this Eagles secondary and against the linebacking core. And we can talk about how they play too off of coverage a lot of times, and that's why a lot of these teams are able to get those pick up those third downs as they seem to always do. Even the third and longs that we've seen over the years. And that's obviously debatable. That's obviously part of it. But again, they're just not good enough. They're not good enough in the secondary, and certainly not in the linebacking core. So they need to get that sustained pressure with the defensive line. And as my original point before I again usually go off on tangents, the original point being is this offense got to score. This all you look at what's going on in Dallas now. This defense isn't as bad as the Dallas defense has been, okay? But the fact still is the Eagles got to score. They got to score because it's really up to the offense to win these games. The defense, though, I think they can make some stops, and I like the fact that look, they got some turnovers right last couple of weeks, so they're doing a little better in that department. But we also see the underbelly, right? So what do the Eagles got to do? They got to score. They got to score, and the offense has to be better. They have played better in recent weeks. It's a tough opponent this week against Baltimore. Like, they have a lot of ferocious players on that defense all over the field, right? Interior line, linebacking core, secondary. It's a very good defense, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get a lot of points off of them. I know I said a week ago it's probably going to be a low-scoring game, and boy, that wasn't really right, was it? Huh? But I do think this week it's going to be a lower-scoring game. Baltimore's coming in. They're a very good team. They're going to be one of those teams this season that has a chance, right, to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. They're that good. Now, Lamar Jackson was a league MVP a season ago, and he has a bit of a knee injury or whatnot. He's not playing the way he was a year ago, and it's hard. It would be hard to duplicate what he did a year ago. But you look at a quarterback that's really a dimensional quarterback, a quarterback that could beat you with his arm, that could beat you with his feet. So this year, more so than his feet, he's beating you with his arm. But at the same time, it's not quite the polished, finish there with him as a passing quarterback as it would be more of him as a scrambling quarterback, as a playmaking quarterback with his feet. He can throw the ball, he can pass, but he's not quite up there with the, you think about some of these, certainly what Roethlisberger was doing. You see a Patrick Mahomes do it. You see these other quarterbacks do it. He's not quite there, and he's had some issues with the consistencies, had some issues with the accuracy of some of his passing. So what the Eagles got to do is, and it's hard when you're looking at a scrambling quarterback, but he's not quite what he was. But if you give him an opportunity, he'll still run. He'll make plays. Got to keep him in the pocket. Keep him being that passing quarterback. Now, the one thing about this game, and I think this is one thing we all have to keep in mind, Baltimore's strength on offense this season is the run, is running the football, and they're very good at it, and they've been doing it for the past few years. They're kind of an old school offense in that regard, right? They're a great running team, a running attack, right? The Eagles' defense is very stout against the run. The Eagles are one of the top run defenses in the league, including last week. Last week, Connor really didn't have much running room whoever was running the ball for the Steelers didn't have a lot of running room, and they controlled that aspect of the ball. They got beat on the pass, not on the run. And in fact, this season, they really haven't been beat on the run just about the entire season, right? You look at the stats of each game, and the running attack for their opposition has not been great. And they played some decent running backs, including a Mixon from the Bengals some weeks ago. And like I said, the Ravens are very good running the ball. They're built for it. The offensive line is built for it. They have really good running backs back there, including a rookie. So they're good. They're probably going to be one of the best challenges for this Eagles defense against the run this season. But my thought is if the Eagles can control the run of the Ravens and kind of take that away and make Baltimore a one-dimensional passing attack, the Eagles will have a better chance to win. And it's one of the reasons why I do feel it'll be a low-scoring game, because I don't think Baltimore is going to be able to control it and just run the ball all over the Eagles' defense as they've been doing against some of the other teams they played this season. That's part of the reason why they had some of those scores that they put up in those weeks, because their running attack has been just tremendous in those games. I don't think they're going to have that this week. I think the Eagles, the one thing I will say about the Jim Schwartz defense is it is very good against the run, and they've been good against the run for many years. And they built this defense with the defensive line, right? And if they control the running game, you're going to have a long day. Now, obviously, if you get past those guys, you got the linebackers and the underbelly, okay? But to this point, the defensive line has played really good against the run. And I think they will again tomorrow against Baltimore and try to make Jackson beat them with his arm more so than the running game for the Ravens and with his ability to run from time to time. Although he's not doing it as much this season. Again, he has a bit of a knee injury, and and actually, I mean, look, you're paying a lot of money for a quarterback, and the last thing you want to see is him running around and getting hurt. But he is dynamic. He is a good quarterback in this league. He was a league MVP a year ago. So again, it's a tough opponent, a tough team, very good defensive team. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Eagles to score points. But I think, again, if the Eagles can control Baltimore's running attack, it's going to be tough for Baltimore to score points tomorrow too. And again, like I said, everyone and their mother is picking the Ravens tomorrow, right? You'll see it tomorrow on all the networks. They'll all have Baltimore, the game pick, and it will all be the Ravens logo across the board probably. And this is the type of game, like I've said before, that it's like everyone expects the Eagles to lose, and they find a way to win. Like a couple weeks ago against San Francisco, everybody thought, even though the Niners had all those injuries, well, they're at home and the Eagles aren't playing good, and well, the Eagles found a way to win that game. My ultimate prediction for this game is, because it's one of those games everyone thinks the Eagles are going to lose, I think they find a way to win this one. And I think this is a very important game for them. If you look at the schedule going past this game, you're playing 3 divisional games after that in this wonderful division that the Eagles are in. You got the Giants, Dallas, and the Giants again. So you have some games. As bleak as this 1-3-1 record looks right now, after Baltimore, you have some games, including 2 against the Giants, that I would consider to be winnable. Dallas without Dak, and the Giants, to me, as poor as the Eagles have looked at times, and it's been rough, I think you got some winnable games coming up, right? You had this tough stretch of just these opponents, right? After Baltimore, you have, I'm not going to say easy, but it's less of an opponent like a Baltimore, like a Pittsburgh, even a 49ers, right? You go from that to, well, here's the Giants and the Dakless Cowboys, right? The Alice Cowboys, because they don't have a D. So I would imagine the Eagles offense will be able to score against them. Everyone else is, right? So I don't, I look at this, and right now it's not looking good, but I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. But they have to find a way to win this game. And again, it's a tiebreaker type of game, because the NFC East plays the AFC North this season, so Baltimore's going to play Dallas. And, it's a tiebreaker type of situation, type of game. So it's an important one for the Eagles to get, and then you get into that stretch where you're playing divisional games, and it could be 3 winnable games back to back to back. I mean, for as crazy as that sounds, right, from where the Eagles are, There could be some winnable games, and the Eagles may even be favored in some of those games. Well, there's a concept. Eagles actually favored to win a game? Oh, my. But I think this game kind of sets things up. So if they can win this game, it would be a good win and a solid win against a very good team in Baltimore. And if they can get it, I think it still shows that mettle that they have, that kind of intestinal fortitude that they have. That every time we think it's over, oh, the season, now they're not playing. Then they start to come back to life. It's like Frankenstein, right? The lightning bolt hits them, and they start moving. So this could be one of those lightning bolt type of games, you know. Again, listen, it's hard for me to say with a straight face that they have a chance to win this game based off how the season's gone so far. But I think we can take some positives away from last week. Even though the defense was god-awful, the offense was good. The offense was putting up points. Look, they did their job last week. It's the defense that didn't. Okay? And I know Carson had 2 interceptions again, and the one was a Hail Mary pass, okay, at the end. And the other one, I get Ertz like gave up on the route or whatever, but still, 2 interceptions is 2 interceptions. So he again, you're playing another team. Like I said last week, you can't lose the takeaway battle with Pittsburgh. They lost the game. Same thing with Baltimore. You can't lose the takeaway battle with Baltimore. If they do that, more than likely it's going to be an L. Though, like I said, I feel it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think the Eagles have a shot, though. Being that it's home, they're going to have some fans there. I think it will give them some juice. And you know, call me the ever optimistic Eagle fan, but I do think they have a shot to get the win. It's a game that no one's picking them to win. Everyone's counting them out, and sometimes that's when we see the best of this team. And I don't think there's any dog masks or anything needed, but that's where this team always just seems to shine. And for whatever reason, they seem to be at their best when everyone counts them out. So I'm going to say it's a win. I guess I'll be the one person. I'm gonna say it's a win. I think they get a win, a close game. Maybe they get a late score to win the game. I'm not going to give you a score because I really don't know. If I were to take a guess, maybe like a 27-24 type of game, low scoring, maybe, a defensive battle. I don't know. I'm giving them a win, a close game win, a home game. And shout out to the fans that are going to be there tomorrow, first time this season. And that's my opinion. That's my take on this week. It has been a disappointing season. I don't think there's any other way you can look at this year so far. It's been ugly. It's been just filled with just moments, right? But again, there's still a lot of season to go, and it's a bad division. It's still a winnable division, but they got to take care of their own business here and win some games. Because it doesn't matter what kind of division you're in. If you can't win games, it doesn't matter. Because then, Dallas could win just enough, to win the division, or the Eagles. I think whoever wins the division is going to win just enough to win the division, right? So much for that 10-6 record earlier in the season that I predicted. It's not looking like that now. But again, they have time to turn this around, and this is a big game tomorrow. And like I said, if they can get the win, you have 3 games after that are, winnable games. See what they do. If they go 2-1 in that stretch, they're still looking good after the Baltimore game. If they win the Baltimore game, go 2-1 over the next 3, they're still looking okay, particularly in this division. So I'm gonna give them a nod. For a victory tomorrow. We'll see. Like I said, 27-24 type of game. Hey, let's get a W. Let's get a W for those fans that are going to be there. Let's get a W for them. Let's get a W for all of Eagles Nation, because God knows we need it, right? Last week was just so disheartening, that game last week. But anyhow, that's my prediction for the week. That's my kind of look ahead to this game against Baltimore. I know my buddy Big Slim. It's funny with Big Slim. He lives in Maryland. He's the biggest Eagles fan in Maryland. He hates the Ravens. He can't stand them, and he can't stand their fans. He's he's surrounded by Raven fans. But so shout out to Big Slim. You know what? I'll tell you one Eagle fan that needs it most of all is Big Slim. So let's get this win for Big Slim, okay? So he can stick it to those Raven fans afterward. He's hoping to do so. So shout out to Big Slim. And let's get to the final segment, of course, the Festive Four, the 4-pack of winners. Now, Festive, I apologize. I gave the wrong record a year ago, last week, rather, a week ago. I said it was 8-6. It wasn't. I gave an extra loss. But so Festive coming into this week, and I know for sure I got the record right this week because Festive went 3-1 last week. Festive's been on a good stretch. Unlike the Eagles have been, but Festive has been constant. In fact, Festive challenges Michael Irvin to a pickoff for the weekly picks. Festive challenging the playmaker. Okay. So, but let's get to this week's weekly Festive Four. So coming into this week, Festive, this is the correct record, okay? I apologize again from last week. 11-5 is the record for Festive coming into play in week 6. So let's get right into it. First of all, Festive likes Tennessee to stay unbeaten. They got a big win. I know, what was it, Tuesday night? It's a short week. They took care of Buffalo. It's a dangerous pick, Festive. I will say it's a dangerous pick, but Festive is running with Derrick Henry and the Titans. Festive likes the Titans over Houston. I know Houston got their first win of the season last week against the Jaguars, but Festive likes Tennessee to beat Houston. Festive likes Indianapolis to bounce back to get another win in the column against Cincinnati. Festive likes New England to beat Denver, a well-rested New England team to beat the Broncos. Cam back as quarterback too. And this is another tough one. So let's not say Festive just takes the easy ones, okay? This is a tough game to pick. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. And Cleveland's playing pretty good this season, but Festive feels the one problem for the Browns, well, there's been a lot of problems with the Browns before this season, but the constant has been Pittsburgh has always been able to beat Cleveland, and Festive feels that Pittsburgh will continue that dominance of Cleveland with another win against the Browns to remain unbeaten. So Festive likes two teams to remain unbeaten going into what would be week 7 then next week in Tennessee and Pittsburgh. So a recap here: Tennessee over Houston, Indianapolis over Cincinnati, the Patriots over the Broncos, and Pittsburgh over Cleveland in a good game. That's going to be a good one in the NFC North battle. There, the Steelers and the Browns. So Festive's going with the Steelers. Although Festive doesn't feel the Steelers are going to score as much as they did a week ago. Maybe the Browns will be able to cover Claypool a little better than the Eagles did. But Festive's still giving the nod to the Steelers. All right, everyone. Well, that's going to do it for week 6 for the pregame. We'll do some postgame tomorrow or, whenever I, get around to it. Hoping it's a win. I feel it's going to be a win. Like I said, 27-24 Eagles over Baltimore in a battle of the birds. And, if the Eagles can do those things that I laid out for them to do, I think they can come away with a victory. All right, everyone. Well, enjoy the game tomorrow. Hopefully we will. To those fans that will be at the game tomorrow, enjoy it. Stay safe out there, everyone. Wear your Eagles masks, okay? And let's get a victory tomorrow, okay? So let's go Birds as always, and I will see you after the game.